Every morning, millions of people wake up, check their bank balance, feel a quiet panic, and then do absolutely nothing about it. Not because they are lazy, not because they are stupid, because nobody ever told them the truth about how money actually works. And the truth is uncomfortable. The financial system you were raised inside was not designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to make you manageable, predictable, dependent, a reliable consumer who earns just enough to spend, spends just enough to stay in debt, and stays in debt just long enough to never accumulate real capital. That is not a conspiracy. That is a business model. And somewhere, right now, a man in a glass office on the 40th floor of a building your paycheck helped construct is counting returns on assets he built while you were sleeping. Not smarter than you, not luckier than you, just awake at a different hour, operating inside a different set of rules. Rules nobody teaches in school, nobody explains at the bank, and nobody posts on the motivational pages you scroll through at midnight wondering why your life has not changed yet. This is the story of what those rules actually are, and it begins with a man named Darius, a man who understood none of this at 28 and understood all of it by 33. Not because he got lucky, not because someone handed him money, because one morning at exactly 5 a.m., he sat down at a cracked kitchen table with a pen, a notebook, and a number that made him physically sick to look at. That number was his net worth, negative $41,000. Not debt from school, not debt from a mortgage, pure consumer debt. Credit cards, a car loan on a vehicle he could not afford, and a personal loan he had taken to cover a shortfall he created by spending money he had not yet earned on things that lost value the moment he bought them. Darius had a job, a decent one. He earned $58,000 a year working in logistics management for a mid-sized distribution company in Ohio. By every visible measure, he looked fine. He had an apartment in a clean neighborhood. He drove a 2021 Nissan Altima. He ate out 3 times a week. He owned a decent TV and a gaming console and a wardrobe with no visible holes. He looked exactly like someone who had their life together. He was exactly $41,000 underwater. And the terrifying part was not the debt. The terrifying part was that he had no idea how it had happened. There was no single catastrophic decision, no gambling loss, no divorce, no medical emergency, just a long, quiet accumulation of normal choices that the entire financial system had quietly encouraged him to make. Here's what nobody tells you about modern poverty. It does not look like rags anymore. It looks like a rewards credit card with a $9,000 balance. It looks like a gym membership, a streaming subscription, and a car payment totaling $780 a month in obligations that all feel reasonable individually and are collectively strangling you. It looks like a savings account with $340 in it and a checking account you refresh every Friday afternoon, waiting for a deposit that is already spent before it arrives. That is the architecture of the trap. And Darius was not trapped because he made terrible decisions. He was trapped because he made the decisions he was trained to make. Think about it. From the moment you're old enough to carry a wallet, every institution around you profits from one specific behavior: spending. Banks profit when you carry a balance. Retailers profit when you buy beyond your needs. Subscription companies profit from your inertia. Landlords profit from your inability to accumulate a down payment. Insurance companies profit from your risk. The entire consumer economy is an extraordinarily sophisticated machine engineered to convert your labor into someone else's capital. And the machine is not broken. It's working perfectly. The question Darius asked himself at 5 a.m. on that Tuesday morning in February was not, how do I get out of debt? That was the surface question. The real question, the one that would eventually change everything, was this: why do some people build wealth with the same income I have and others do not? Not more income, the same income. Because the data on this is clear and most people never see it. Two people with identical salaries, same city, same cost of living, 10 years later, one has a net worth of $340,000 and the other has a net worth of negative $12,000. The difference is not income, it's not intelligence, it's not even discipline in the way most people define it. It's financial architecture. It's the invisible system of decisions running silently beneath the surface of your financial life. Decisions you set up once and then either work for you or against you every single day, whether you're paying attention or not. Darius didn't know any of this yet. All he knew was the number, negative 41, and it was that number that made him do something he had never done before. He didn't call a debt consolidation company, he didn't download a budgeting app, he didn't watch a motivational video. He went to find someone who actually had money and asked them how. His mother's oldest friend, a woman named Gloria, had retired at 57, not wealthy by magazine standards, no yacht, no second home, but completely free. No debt, no employer, no financial anxiety. She lived in a paid-off house, drove a paid-off car, and took 2 vacations a year funded entirely by passive income from 3 rental units and a dividend portfolio she had been building quietly for 22 years, on a teacher's salary. A teacher's salary. Darius called her on a Thursday evening and asked if he could buy her coffee that weekend. She said she didn't drink coffee anymore. Come for breakfast, she said. Saturday, 7 a.m. He arrived at 7:05. She had been awake since 5. Gloria looked at him across the table with the particular patience of someone who has watched many people almost change their lives and wanted to say something real before he wasted another decade. She asked him one question before he could explain his situation. She said, "What do you do with the first hour after you get paid?" Darius didn't understand the question. He said he usually paid some bills and then used what was left for the week. Gloria nodded slowly. She said that was the problem, not the bills, the sequence. She pulled out a napkin. She said, the financial system operates on a sequencing principle that most people never learn. Banks, corporations, and high net worth individuals all use the same sequence. They receive money, they allocate capital first, then they operate on what remains. You, like most people, receive money, operate on all of it, and allocate what survives the month. Most months, nothing survives. She drew 2 arrows on the napkin. One pointing forward, one pointing backward. She said, "You're running your financial life in reverse, and you'll run it in reverse until you consciously redesign the architecture. Nobody will do this for you. In fact, the entire system around you will actively resist you doing it because your realignment represents lost revenue for someone else." Darius stared at the napkin. He asked her what he was supposed to do with $58,000 a year and $41,000 in debt. She said, "I'm going to give you a 3-stage architecture that I spent 22 years learning. Most people who hear it think it sounds too simple. That's why they don't do it. Simplicity is disguised as stupidity when you've been conditioned to believe that complexity signals value. The financial industry profits enormously from that conditioning. The more complicated they make it sound, the more dependent you remain on their services." She leaned forward. She said, "Are you ready to hear something that will make you uncomfortable?" He said, "Yes." She said, "You can't save your way to wealth. Saving is a defense. Wealth is built on offense, and the wealthy play offense with other people's ignorance, other people's debt, and other people's time. Until you understand those 3 mechanisms, you will always be on the wrong side of the transaction." Pause on that for a second, because this is the part most financial content refuses to say clearly. If you are only saving, you are only playing defense. You are protecting what little you have from the inflation that quietly erodes its purchasing power every year. A savings account paying 4.5% interest in an economy with 4.8% real inflation is not building wealth. It is losing ground slowly enough that you do not feel it until 10 years have passed, and you wonder why your balance never seems to grow into anything meaningful. This is where I want to stop and ask you something directly. If this is already shifting how you see your own financial life, hit that like button right now and subscribe to this channel. Every week, I bring you exactly this kind of tactical financial breakdown the industry does not want you to have. Now back to Darius and Gloria. She gave him a 3-stage architecture, not advice, a structure. Stage 1, she called extraction. She said, the first thing you do when money arrives is extract a fixed percentage before it enters your spending environment. Not what's left, not what feels comfortable, a fixed, non-negotiable percentage. She told him to start at 15% of his take-home pay, not into a savings account, into a separate institution with no debit card attached to it. Frictionless access to money is the enemy of capital accumulation. If you can spend it easily, you will spend it eventually. She said most people save what is left. She said wealthy people spend what is left. Those two sentences are not the same idea wearing different clothes. They are architecturally opposite. Stage 2, she called elimination. She laid out the debt destruction sequence most people get completely backwards. The instinct is to pay minimums across all debts and put the extra toward the smallest balance. She said that instinct is wrong, not emotionally, mathematically. She said to identify the debt with the highest interest rate and exterminate it with everything available after the extraction percentage. Not the smallest balance for a psychological win, the highest rate for a mathematical advantage. Every dollar sitting in high-interest debt is costing you between 19 and 26% annually. No investment you can make at Darius's stage consistently returns 24%. Eliminating that debt is the highest guaranteed return available to him. She was right. Darius had a credit card at 23.99% APR, carrying a $7,400 balance. Paying the minimum of $185 a month meant that debt would take 11 years to clear and cost him $16,000 in interest, not the original $7,400. $24,000 total to borrow $7,400. That is not a credit card. That is a financial anchor attached to his ankle. Stage 3, Gloria called deployment. She said this was where most people wanted to start and why most people never got there, because stages 1 and 2 take 18 to 24 months of uncomfortable financial restriction, and most people quit at month 3 when the lifestyle sacrifice feels disproportionate to the visible progress. She said, you will not feel wealthy during the extraction and elimination phase. You will feel poor. You will feel like you are missing out. That friction is the price of the architecture. Pay it. But after extraction and elimination, deployment is where the machine turns on. She explained the 3 deployment channels she had used on her teacher's salary. First, tax-advantaged retirement accounts maxed annually, not because retirement felt urgent at 35, but because the tax arbitrage alone, the difference between what you pay now and what you would pay without the shelter, compounds over decades into a number that most people think only wealthy people can access. It is not a wealthy person's tool. It is a patient person's tool. Wealthy people just happen to be both. Second, a single income-producing asset. She said, do not diversify at the beginning. Diversification is a wealth preservation strategy, not a wealth-building strategy. Find one asset class you understand deeply and build a position in it. She chose residential rental property in her mid-30s. A single 2-bedroom unit purchased with a 20% down payment saved over 26 months of disciplined extraction. That unit cash flowed $340 per month after expenses in year 1. By year 8, it had appreciated 44%, and the mortgage was 62% paid down, and she had used the equity to finance her second unit. Third, and she was very clear this was the longest runway but the most powerful, index-based equity ownership. Not stock picking, not trading, not cryptocurrency speculation. Consistent, automated, monthly ownership of the broad market through low-cost index funds. She said, most people think investing is about finding the right stock. The wealthy know that investing is about time in the market, not timing the market. A $400 monthly contribution to a broad index fund at an average 9% annual return over 25 years becomes $397,000. That is not talent. That is arithmetic. Darius left Gloria's house at 9:30 a.m. with a notebook full of numbers and a single clear thought. He had not been failing because of his income. He had been failing because of his sequence. He went home and did 3 things that afternoon. He opened a high-yield savings account at an online bank with no physical branches and no debit card. He set up an automatic transfer for $580, exactly 15% of his monthly take-home, to move the morning after every paycheck arrived, before he touched it, before he even saw it in his main account. He listed every debt he held, sorted them by interest rate, and identified the 23.99% credit card as the primary target. He calculated that if he added $300 per month above the minimum payment, he would eliminate that card in 14 months instead of 11 years and save $14,000 in interest. And he set an alarm for 5 a.m., not to wake up early for the sake of it, but because Gloria had said something on his way out the door that he could not stop thinking about. She said, "The reason wealthy people protect their mornings is not productivity theater. It's because the noise of the world, your phone, your colleagues, the news, the financial products being marketed at you, all of it is designed to keep your attention on spending and away from building. That hour before that noise starts is the only uncontaminated window most people have to think clearly about their financial future. Use it." So Darius used it. Every morning at 5 a.m. for the next 90 days, he did one thing. He sat at that cracked kitchen table and he studied money. Not inspirational content, not net worth flexing. He studied how compound interest actually calculates. He studied what a balance sheet is and built one for his own household. He studied the difference between an asset and a liability in the precise language Gloria had used. He read about tax-advantaged accounts. He read landlord forums. He started tracking every single dollar that came in and out of his life with surgical accuracy. By day 30, he had paid off a $1,200 store credit card completely, the 31% APR card he'd opened 3 years ago to buy a laptop during a sale he'd convinced himself was too good to miss. By day 60, he had built a $1,740 buffer in the separate account, the first money in his adult life that had no immediate destination, no bill waiting for it, no purchase already mentally assigned to it. By day 90, he had a written financial plan for 24 months. Not a dream board, a plan with numbers, timelines, target debt elimination dates, and a deployment strategy that would begin in month 25, assuming he maintained the architecture. That was 4 years ago. Today, Darius has 0 consumer debt. He has a fully funded emergency reserve covering 7 months of expenses. He has a retirement account with $34,000 in it. He has a 2-bedroom rental unit that cash flows $410 per month after the mortgage and expenses, purchased 14 months ago with a down payment he saved over 19 months of disciplined extraction. And he has an index fund portfolio he contributes $500 per month to automatically without thinking about it, without checking it daily, without panicking during corrections. His income did not dramatically change. He earns $67,000 now, up from $58,000, a $9,000 raise over 4 years. That raise did not create his wealth position. His architecture did. Here is the number that should matter to you. His net worth moved from negative $41,000 to positive $118,000 in 48 months, a $159,000 swing on a salary that most financial gurus would tell you is insufficient to build real wealth. The difference was sequence, architecture, and 5 a.m. Not the romanticism of 5 a.m., not the idea of being awake while the city sleeps, the function of 5 a.m., the uncontaminated hour before the world sells you something, before the notification arrives that pulls your attention back into the consumer cycle, before the spending pressure of the day begins. That hour is where Darius rebuilt his financial beliefs from the floor up. That is where he stopped making decisions based on what felt normal and started making decisions based on what was mathematically sound. Let me give you the exact thing to do with this information right now, not eventually, right now. Take out your phone. Open your banking app, add up every debt you are carrying and sort them by interest rate. Write down the highest rate and the balance. Calculate what you are paying in annual interest on that single debt. Look at that number and understand it is not a debt payment. It's a tax you are paying for the privilege of spending money you had not yet earned. Then decide what percentage of your next paycheck you will extract before you touch the rest. It doesn't have to be 15%. It can be 5% if that's what your current obligations allow. The percentage matters less than the sequence. The habit of extracting first is the architecture. The amount scales as the debt eliminates. And tomorrow morning, earlier than you normally wake up, sit somewhere quiet without your phone open to social media and think about one financial concept you do not fully understand. Compound interest, tax-advantaged accounts, what a real asset produces versus what a liability costs. One concept, 30 minutes, in silence. Not because silence is spiritual, because the financial system makes its money in the noise, and your wealth, if it is coming, will be built in the quiet. Darius did not become financially free because he was exceptional. He became financially free because he stopped playing by rules designed to keep him broke, sat down at 5 a.m. and learned the ones designed to build wealth, and then had the discipline to apply them when every comfort instinct told him to stop. The alarm is going off. The only question is whether you are going to hit snooze again.